The metric system. You may or may not be familiar with the metric system. These are the basic relationships I expect you to know. 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. 1 meter is equal to 1,000 millimeters. 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. And 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters. These are the various unit fractions that would go with them. The other relationships you should know: 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. This is for volume. And then for mass, they use grams, kilograms, and milligrams. So 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams, and 1 gram is equal to 1,000 milligrams. Converting with unit fractions is going to work the exact same way. If we have 5 kilometers and we want to convert it to meters, we're going to use the unit fraction 1,000 meters is equal to 1 kilometer. Again, this is equal to 1, that's why we can use it. The thing on the top is the unit for your answer. The thing on the bottom is what's being changed. So these units match up. They need to match up so that they can divide out. And then 5 times 1,000 is just 5,000 meters. So 5 kilometers is equal to 5,000 meters. You'll notice in the metric system, the arithmetic is always much easier because you'll only be multiplying or dividing by 10 or 100 or 1,000, which means you're really only moving decimal places. That's one of the primary reasons every other country uses the metric system. Convert 2.5 liters to milliliters. Again, using unit fractions, 1,000 milliliters is equal to liters, so these units cancel out, leaving you with milliliters, and then 2.5 times 1,000 is 2,500 milliliters. Convert 7 milligrams to grams. So the milligrams are what we want to cancel, so that's going to be in the denominator. 1,000 milligrams is equal to 1 gram. Here you can either leave it as the fraction 7 over 1,000, or you can write it as the decimal point 0.007. I'm okay with either answer. Just make sure you read carefully in your directions as to what MyMathLab wants. And another example, convert 13.72 kilograms to milligrams. So again, we don't have a direct relationship between kilograms and milligrams, so we are going to have to use a double unit fraction. We'll start by converting kilograms to grams by using the unit fraction 1,000 grams is equal to 1 kilogram, and then we will convert from grams to milligrams by using the unit fraction 1,000 milligrams is equal to 1 gram. The kilograms divide out, the grams divide out, and leave us with the units we wanted of milligrams, and then just multiply across. The last set of conversions that you'll need, second to last set of conversions you'll need to know is to go back and forth between the metric and the US system. Now, notice the use of the approximation sign in all cases except for this one. That's because the metric system and the US system don't actually get along very well, and so we are only estimating our answer. And for several of these, you're going to have a couple of options. For example, you can either do liters to gallons or liters to quarts. Depending on which one you go with, you might get slightly different answers, particularly for the word problems or for situations where you could have multiple sets of unit fractions being used. Depending on which direction you go, you can get different answers, which is why I will always use an approximation symbol, because these are not exact conversions. The one and only exception is that 1 inch is exactly 2.54 centimeters. That's the only exception to that rule. But again, when you're doing your homework or you are doing the worksheet, if you get a different answer than I do, check to see if you used a different relationship, and then it's probably just fine. It's just that these are all estimates. Okay, convert 10 meters to yards using unit fractions. Notice the directions here. Round your answer to the nearest tenth. All of these are some nasty decimals, so depending on the problem, you might round to the tenth or you might round to the hundredth, so make sure you read your directions very carefully. So we have 10 meters into yards. The relationship we have is that 1 meter is 1.09 yards. And this is what I meant. Some people might use 1 meter and convert that into feet and then take the feet into yards. If you go that route, you're going to get a slightly different answer. Okay, so 10 meters times 1.09 yards over 1 meter. Those units match and they cancel. Now we just multiply and get 10.9 yards. In this case, we don't have to round because we only have something in the tens place. But notice the use of the approximate symbol. I personally would have used an approximation symbol through the entire problem, but at the very least in your answer you must have the approximation symbol. Convert 3.5 kilograms to pounds. So kilograms cancel, and we're just going to multiply 3.5 times 2.20. We get 7.7. Again, we don't need to round, it only went to the tens place. And again, we should be using the approximation symbol. Technically, these should both be approximation symbols as well. Convert 18 gallons to liters, round your answer to the nearest tenth. So gallons cancel, and we have 3.79 liters times 18. And this is 68.22. Now we do need to do some rounding because we have something in the hundredths place, so we round, and it's approximately 68.2 liters. Convert 300 grams to ounces. Here is the unit fraction we're using. Our grams cancel. Multiply this, and we get 10.5 ounces. Again, no rounding necessary, but it is still an approximation. Our last topic then is to learn about the common temperatures on the Celsius scale and to convert between Celsius and Fahrenheit. So in the metric system, they use the Celsius scale. The Celsius scale uses the benchmarks of water. So when water freezes at 0 degrees and boils at 100 degrees Celsius. And just a reminder that the little circle means degrees. We use the Fahrenheit system. We are the only countries that still uses the Fahrenheit system. For Fahrenheit, I have no idea how he came up with these numbers, but water freezes at 32 degrees and it boils at 212 degrees, which is not very logical at all. 0 and 100 is a far more logical set of numbers to work with. Here's kind of a comparison between the Celsius system and the Fahrenheit system. And here's how we would convert. So you do not have to have these memorized. On the exam, I will give them to you. But you do need to be able to use them appropriately. And notice they have several operations, which means you'll have to use order of operations, which means parentheses first, then any exponents, then multiply and divide, and lastly add or subtract. Convert 10 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius. Round your answer to the nearest degree. So we're going to replace the Fahrenheit with our given value of 10. Then we're going to follow order of operations, do parentheses first, 10 minus 32 is negative 22. Now we're going to multiply, and we get negative 110 over 9, and that winds up being negative 12.2 repeating. This is a repeating decimal, but notice they told us to round to the nearest degree. So 10 degrees Celsius is approximately negative 12 degrees Fahrenheit. Convert 15 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit equals 9c over 5 plus 32. Replace the c with 15. Technically you should multiply first, but remember this is basically a fraction, and for fractions, if we're going to simplify, it's often easier to break those numbers down. So I'm going to break 15 down as 3 times 5. Those 5's cancel. 9 times 3 is 27. 27 plus 32 is 59. You could have multiplied 9 and 15 together, but that would have given you a much bigger number, and then you had to divide by 5. This is kind of out of laziness. If you can work with smaller numbers, it makes all the arithmetic easier. So 15 degrees Celsius is equal to 59 degrees Fahrenheit. That concludes section 8.5. Your next step is to complete the worksheet for section 8.5, then check the key for that worksheet, and then complete the online homework for section 8.5 through my math lab. And then lastly, start on chapter quiz 6.